Speaking about decisions, David, I was listening to Jamie Carragher yesterday speaking after the game, and Trent Alexander-Arnold came up in conversation, and Jamie Carragher said that, look, his interpretation of what Trent has been saying lately about Ballon d'Ors and whatnot has Jamie feeling like maybe he thinks Trent is going to depart from Madrid. Then Paddy Pimblett, again, who's not the voice of football, but is a scouser, was saying that around the city, the whispers he's hearing again are that Trent Alexander-Arnold is likely going to make his mind up and go to Madrid. What concerns me about all of this isn't the man's decision. He's free to do whatever he thinks is best for his own life. But I don't want it dragged out because I don't want any bitterness towards Trent if indeed he does make that decision. I don't want Liverpool fans to feel like maybe Trent has dragged this out right towards the end. So there is a shorter goodbye period, and I don't think it would work well in that scenario. If Trent decides he's going to go, and again, I'm going to ask you about that, I would rather that we gave him the long goodbye like Jurgen Klopp, that we could process it as fans and have time. And of course, the club then have time to succeed. If you heard anything that gives you any pause for thought that maybe Trent is going to go to Madrid?
No, to be honest, I just think everything around this is a lot of speculation. People can read what they want into every Trent Alexander-Arnold interview or his body language, or oh, I think this because X, Y, Z. But the reality is, no one actually knows at the moment, and Liverpool certainly, for their part, are not suggesting that they feel that the Real Madrid deal is done, or Trent's not giving them priority, and there's not. As far as we are aware, and my understanding is that talks are ongoing around a new contract, and I think everything else in between that, because there's nothing coming from Trent's side, I can absolutely guarantee you, everything around it is basically speculation, really. And I think, surely the default position is to think that Liverpool will try to do everything to tie him down to a new contract. We know that for a fact. We don't exactly know where Trent's head is at, but we know that he hasn't told Liverpool or informed Liverpool he's off to Real Madrid yet, and is engaging in these talks in good faith as far as we're aware. And like I say, people might want to fill in the gaps with the feel or whatever, or taking quotes in a certain way, or like I say, body language, being a body language expert. But for me, there's just no point filling in the gaps, because you can fill in the gaps and suggest it might be off to Real Madrid, and then all of a sudden the contract gets announced tomorrow, and that will get forgotten about. But I'd rather just not try and do that and try and speculate in those little areas where we don't know a lot. I just think there are certain things we do know, and like I say, it's that talks are ongoing, and then we'll kind of see beyond that. I just think the rest of it is, like I say, it's just speculation, and people being concerned about it, worried, which is fair enough. But then don't try and fill that in and say that you think that this is because X outcome is coming. I just don't think that's the way to approach it personally.
I wonder if perhaps people are looking around and thinking, okay, maybe Trent takes a bit longer to figure out, or maybe Mohamed Salah is the more difficult of the three. But to seemingly have no progress or public progress on any of the three, I think just probably has people feeling a little bit concerned that we're inching every day closer towards the winter window where we know these guys are going to be free to negotiate outside of the Premier League if they so wished. It's just that for me, David, from taking the temperature of the fan base that people are nervous about. Now, weirdly, there's been some more optimism from Mohamed Salah's side in the public perception about this, and people feel like Mo's looking like he's comfortable, he's enjoying his football, he's still contributing greatly to the team, and there's a bit of renewed optimism that maybe Mo would be likely to stay. Now, you've always been honest and said you believe that's the most difficult negotiation of the three. Still feel that's the case?
Yeah, I think so. Just because of his wage packet is absolutely huge, so still think that's kind of a sticking point. And that kind of negotiation from Liverpool's side of being worried about him kind of very suddenly dropping off. I still think that is present. But that's the thing about this is, if there's any public utterance that can be interpreted in a positive way, then all of a sudden people are swaying towards the Mohamed Salah contract maybe being more straightforward. But it's just how we interpret things and how we choose to see them. And you mentioned there about sort of no public confirmation of how things are going in terms of the contract talks. I mean, that is right, but I mean, neither party really wants to play these out in public. I mean, the only real solid update I can remember any of us having, and us as journalists getting, is when we spoke to Van Dijk a couple of weeks ago, and he told us that the contract talks are happening. So for me, again, maybe that's me just leaning towards positivity. That is to be taken as a positive update that Liverpool are working on these contracts, that they're trying to get them sorted. And I just think it's not worth kind of putting too much worry into it on the basis that they could be announced tomorrow. These things happen so suddenly. I mean, you couldn't tell me anyone who knew about Jarell Quansah's new contract coming. It just happens. A report comes out and then the deal's done, and then the announcements then on the official website. So it will be the same with these if they do get done. It's not like we're going to get a running commentary. So until we hear anything, to the contrary, or that Liverpool are feeling that they're going to lose any of these players, I just don't think it's anything kind of worth worrying about at the moment, particularly because there's a lot of football to focus on as well, to be honest.
I think that's where some of the concern comes in, that this becomes a bigger issue as it gets closer to the winter window. And as much as everybody will say that these guys are professionals, and they are, uncertainty isn't really anybody's friend in this. Whether you're a player thinking about your own contract extension or looking ahead to the future, I do understand why fans are anxious about it, but I also respect and understand the other side of the coin as well, where these are private negotiations. I think we're just looking for any little sign, as you've said, maybe that there's some positivity in it, because everybody respects and rates these guys so highly. This is not just three normal contract extensions. These are three of the spine of this successful team.
But that is also why I think Liverpool just won't allow it to get to a situation where three of them leave. I just can't see any world where that happens, to be honest. So that for me is why I just think it will get resolved. And I think there are so many signs that point towards resolutions coming that I just don't feel that kind of concerned about it. I think, you do, if you get to the other side of January, it does start to get a little bit, that is where for me concern will come in, because as much as, I mean, the clubs can talk to them now anyway, let's be honest, that's how it works. But I think to really publicly court these players as well and really make a concerted push to try and get them, I'm sure that will happen. So I think Liverpool would like to have them wrapped up before then, but we've still got some time before that happens. These negotiations are, it's a process, and they're going through it now, and it's back and forth. But until we hear anything concrete, I'm sure there's plenty more good performances to come. And in terms of distractions as well, I would point to last season. I didn't think Jurgen Klopp's departure was a distraction in the slightest, to be honest. I think Liverpool's biggest problem was getting so many injuries, really. I don't think the Jurgen thing mattered that much, and I think it will be similar around the players. And also, I believe that at least a couple of them will get signed up anyway, and it will be kind of a non-issue before we get to the end of the season anyway. So I don't think it's going to be too big a distraction.
Appreciate your input on that as always, sir. I wanted to go back to Jamie Carragher for a moment, because he made another comment during the week about maybe Liverpool being short of that X factor player. He went on to speak about the likes of De Bruyne and Martin Odegaard. It kind of got me thinking. One, I can see where he's coming from, but two, I don't know where that player fits in to our squad and our team at the minute with regards to the way Arna has the boys playing, because you would say Szoboszlai is probably the closest we have in the current setup to that. He works his backside off. His press is really important, and he adds a lot into the midfield, as does Curtis Jones in this new style under the manager. Do you agree with Jamie Carragher that maybe we are missing that X Factor type player, and where would we put him in if we did have one?
For me, I think the area I think Liverpool are maybe, like in a little bit of X factor is maybe just in the forward line at the moment. I think, I've kind of maybe mentioned this before, but I think it's been a long time since they've signed a player of the, Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, when they signed for the club, the level they were instantly at, and then their peak level. We've got an unbelievable version of Mo Salah still, but it's not quite peak Mo Salah. And then you look across the remaining forward options. Jota, he's a goal scorer, but a bit messy around the box sometimes. Darwin Núñez, quite up and down. Chiesa, we don't know what he's going to be. Diaz, has been a goal threat this season, but again, can be inconsistent, similar with Gakpo. So they've got, Mo Salah, who's still world class, but not what he was, and then a really good supporting cast. But for me, you would like one of those forward options to just be peak level Sadio Mane, to be honest. And I don't think Liverpool have quite got that. I think they've got enough X factor in kind of midfield with what Gravenberch and McAllister can do, and Szoboszlai when he's on song. But I would just like another forward who's kind of like that, and that's one little question mark I have over Liverpool really going forward this season in terms of winning things. Is are they going to have that one player who sort of can dig them out constantly and get those sort of unbelievable goals to win games 1-0. I mean, maybe that will still be Mo Salah. Maybe this will be his last season being absolutely ridiculously unbelievable. But I still feel like they could have done with another. But we'll I might be wrong about that, and we'll see. Maybe the system can kind of hide those flaws and make sure the goals come consistently enough anyway.